Well, it is a joy to be with you. Happy 150th anniversary to all of the parish. This is a really important time to demark the history of the development of faith here in this area. And I want to thank all of you who are so committed to the Catholic Church and to the way of following Jesus, because you are continuing a great legacy that was begun here. Now, I'd like to go over a few historical points each time I come to a parish that's celebrating a 100th or 150 years anniversary. And I'm just going to do some highlights, and I promise you that I will take only 1 minute per year. No, not really. Just a few highlights. As I read these historical comments, think about all the people that have passed on this place, this legacy to you, as a gift of faith, as a gift of a way to live life, of the way to live the Catholic life, the life of Catholic discipleship. The first Catholic settlers in Greenville traveled to Little Chute or Appleton to attend Mass. By 1855, Masses were being said in Greenville in local homes. I'm going to come back to that point. Masses were said in Greenville in local homes. So the priest would come from some other area as a missionary priest, pastor. He would come here and celebrate Mass in somebody's home. Land was donated for a parish in 1858, and the first resident pastor, Monsignor Andrew Soibert, was assigned in 1869. The first church was dedicated on Easter Monday, March 29th, 1869, hence the 150th anniversary. The ethnicity of the first parishioners was primarily of German background. In 1879, the pastor, Father Clement Lau, encouraged the formation of a school. For the first several years, classes were taught in the sacristy. A one-room school was eventually built in 1887. Initially, the School Sisters of St. Francis from Milwaukee staffed the school. However, in 1914, the School Sisters of Notre Dame arrived, and that religious order provided staffing for the school until 1972. Wow. In a 1980s parish booklet, an older parishioner, Millie Sigel, shared some memories of the school. Many children walked to school, but those who lived more than 2 miles away took a horse and a buggy or a sleigh during the winter. She recalled how the stables for the horses offered a great place to play hide and seek during recess. Different days, huh? Incredible. A larger school was built in 1959, and a large addition was built in 2000. This is a parish that has experienced growth in the last few decades. In 1995, there were 500 registered units. The number of the unit for 2018 is 1,057. I don't know if you realize how much you're growing. The growth of the community of Greenville was a concern for the parish back in the 1980s. The archival file at the diocese contains a report titled Area Growth Pattern Impact on St. Mary's in Greenville by Deacon Paul Klein. The report described local trends such as new housing developments in the area. The parish's second church was dedicated in 1988. I believe that's this church right here. Before demolition, attempts had been made to remove and save an image of Mary that was a painting on the ceiling. However, these attempts failed. There were a few days of rain afterward, and the old building was demolished. And when the workers finally were able to remove the rubble from the site, the picture was found at the bottom of the pile, intact and dry. The preservation of the painting is considered a miracle by the parishioners. It now hangs in the school's library, and you just received an invitation before Mass to come and see that. Documents in the archival files mention parish groups such as Christian Women's Society, Sacramental Preparation Teams, Homeschool Association, as well as various committees. The parish's website today lists a wide range of activities in which parishioners can serve their community: Care Ministry, Elizabeth Ministries, Hospitality, Auction, Knights of Columbus, Oktoberfest, Liturgical Ministries, Prayer Ministries, Parish Leadership, Parish Support Services, Respect Life, and Social Concerns. Don't let anybody tell you there's nothing going on in the parish. They don't know what they're talking about. Additionally, there's a variety of faith formation opportunities for different age groups. A recent Compass article by Pat Caston described how the school recognizes students' anniversaries of baptism in the morning announcements. That's unusual. Additionally, the baptism anniversaries of parishioners are noted in the parish bulletin. What a beautiful idea. I've never heard that before. Congratulations to you. In the same Compass article, former Greenville School principal Mary Kreutzberg was quoted as praising the parish's sense of community. There is a feeling of unity in our church. I credit that to our pastors. They have fostered the idea that we are a family together. As needs come up, we help each other with whatever those needs we have. This is a factor in keeping us, now a big parish, a caring community. It is very pleasant to go to church. So isn't that a beautiful, quick recounting? I'd say I didn't take 150 minutes to do it, but it does give us a sense of the faith and the ups and downs a little bit here in this area, and what an incredible gift you and the diocese have inherited by people that have gone before us, both in leadership, in membership, and in all the farming and all the different various industries and occupations that keep people being able to earn a good and decent living. Today is that beautiful reading from the prodigal son. We often call the story the prodigal son. But I would like you to do a little paradigm shift on that and to think of it this way. This is the parable of the forgiving father. It's really more about the attitude of the father than it is the prodigal son. We know he wandered away. We know that story. There's a lot of young people who do that today even. He went away and squandered his gifts and his inheritance and wound up dirt poor, couldn't even eat the feed of the swines, the pigs. And so he wound up coming back home to his father. But that's not the main curious part of the story. The curious part of the story is the attitude of the father. The attitude of the older brother is not that unusual either. The one who stayed around, was faithful, did the hard work, maybe felt unappreciated by his dad. He was there and he remonstrated his father for having such a big party for this wayward guy that took off on him. Now, I read an interesting commentary the other day that said in the Middle East at this time, it was Jesus' time, it was the older brother's responsibility to go out and to bring a fallen away, a wayward person back into the flock. That was the older brother's responsibility to bring that young brother back into the fold of the father. He didn't do that. He sat pretty comfortable and felt pretty good because he stayed with it, and his brother wandered off and squandered his inheritance. So that's something for us to reflect on too with people that have fallen away from our faith. You know, we can't just leave them out there to languish. We need, as the older brothers and sisters in church, to reach out, as you are doing, I know, to welcome those back who maybe have fallen away or gone astray or something like that. Well, let's get back to the main story of the forgiveness of the Father. This really came home to me this week. I have had an incredible week. I have been traveling around the diocese to 6 different parishes with Father Ubald from Rwanda. Father Ubald is a survivor of the genocide in Rwanda in the early 90s. You know, there are 2 major tribes there, but there are artificial distinctions between the Tutsis and the Hutus. The Belgian settlers there called some people Hutus, others Tutsis, depending upon their level of income and their wealth. And there became bitter divisions between the 2 groups of peoples right within the one Rwandan people. And this grew to an exacerbated rate more and more. And hatred was instilled, and one group started to hate the other group. And most of these are our Catholic brothers and sisters. 85% of that country at the time was Catholic. And Catholics turned on Catholics. Father Ubald was a pastor, and his entire family was wiped out. 80 members of his extended family were killed during that genocide. One of those persons was his own mother, who was macheted to death. And he has had to deal with that all these years. I say deal with it because it's interesting what happened to Father Ubald. Also, 35,000 members of his parishioners, they have very large parishes there, 35,000 members were murdered in cold blood by the opposing race. Can you imagine how hard it must be not to have hatred? How hard it must be to forgive people, someone that killed your own mother? Difficult. Father Ubald went to Lourdes, and he had a beautiful experience of the Mother of Mercy there in Lourdes. And she said to him, Ubald, you must carry your cross. You must forgive. You must forgive. So Father Ubald had to let go of the resentment that was building in his heart, the hatred that was starting to build in his heart. And he knew that he was challenged to forgive. Every night before this event in Lourdes, he cried himself to sleep, what little sleep he got, because he didn't know what to do with all these feelings and how he would adjust to life in this country that had been a bloodbath. A bloodbath. By the way, Our Lady appeared there in Rwanda in a place called Kibeho several years before this genocide, and she warned them, your country will be nothing but a bloodbath, and your rivers will be streams of blood, she told them. But they didn't listen. They didn't listen. So Father Ubald decided when he was in Lourdes, after the Blessed Mother said that to him, I must make a choice. I must make a decision. Decision, he says it very clearly, to forgive. To forgive. And so that priest not only forgave the assailant of his broader family and of the parishioners, different ones who killed all these people, but he also forgave the man that murdered his own mother. Not only did he forgive the man who murdered his own mother, he adopted his children when his wife died and the man was in jail serving his term. He adopted that man's children. And he's put them through college. And the girl will be a doctor, medical doctor, in September of this year. Now, is that a story of the forgiving Father or not? That's a story of forgiveness. Father makes the point, and I had never thought about this clearly, that in the cycle of forgiveness, it is the victim who must forgive first. And that's contrary to everything we think, isn't it? But did Jesus say, he points to the cross, and he said, did Jesus say to all the people who had murdered him, they have to ask for forgiveness before I'll grant it? No. Jesus said, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. You can see the wisdom of this, brothers and sisters, because if we hold on to lack of forgiveness, it turns into resentment. Resentment turns into bitterness. Bitterness turns into revenge. Revenge turns into violence. Violence turns into war. That's the cycle of lack of forgiveness. Whereas forgiveness, and this is the title of Father's brand new book, forgiveness brings freedom. Forgiveness brings freedom. So my brothers and sisters, in this Lenten season, as your parish goes forward into the next 150-year period, I want to reflect back on your home now. Just think, this parish started in somebody's home. And Vatican II very wisely calls the home the domestic church. That's because that's where all the virtues of the Christian Catholic life can be practiced, ought to be practiced. And dads, you need to step up to the plate and be the spiritual father of your home. The moms are so generous, so giving, but often it's the dads who sit back and let her do all the work, when it's really your job to be spiritual fathers, not just physical fathers, not just obedience fathers, but spiritual fathers for your family. The home is the place where you learn to pray. The home is the place where forgiveness is granted over and over again. Because God said that too. Somebody said to Jesus, how many times should we forgive? 7 times? Oh, no. No. 70 times, 7 times. Or in the newer translation, 77 times. The reason he used that term was because 7 is the symbol for infinity. In other words, God realizes we have to forgive over and over and over again like He does us. He forgives us constantly. And who are any of us to not grant forgiveness to others when we have been granted forgiveness over and over and over? Each one of us, we're all sinners, by God again and again. My mom used to say that a house is just a house until the family puts love in it. A house is just a house until the family puts love in it. Love comes through prayer. Love is just human unless it's based in divine love, which comes through the practices of prayer. This parish reveres the devotional life of the church. But every home is to be a little church, a mini church. We call it the domestic church in Vatican II. It's there that this parish first started, in a group of neighbors' homes who was able to get a hold of a missionary priest to come and celebrate the Holy Mass in their home. And that's as it should be. This parish is only as strong and as holy as are each and every one of your homes, where love and prayer and forgiveness should always abound.